Hi guys, it's me, Aiden Shea, and today I'll be doing a video on my favorite Smite gods. Well, not my favorite actually, the ones I consider to be the best gods in Smite. And it's going to be a top 10 gods of Smite. Now this is my personal opinion, and as of right now, the latest god in Smite is Iumi, or however you pronounce it. She is a hunter, and I am not including her in this video or in these rankings at all. That being said, I am also not including Terra or Erlon Shen in these rankings as well, because I feel like those gods are also too new. But I will be including any god that came before Erlong Shen. So I believe that means anybody from Susanoo on could be in this list. So I hope you all enjoy, and here we go. Starting off at number 10, we have Kefri. Now Kefri is a very reliable guardian with a very good skill set. His one is what is this one? His one is a dash, which is actually used as a grab as well, and his 2 also does considerable amounts of damage, which is good for a guardian. And his 3 is a stun, which can help with his 1, that when you dash in, the god will be stunned when you use the 3. It can also help to block enemy attacks, which is a great thing to be able to do. Kefri's ultimate, however, helps to revive players or Kefri once they die. This can be quite effective in team fights, and will also be helpful during every other situation. Now moving on to number 9, we have Chinwe, who is a hunter. Now her passive is actually one of the best in the game, as it gets you out pretty far onto the map, and if you're playing arena, it's going to get you 100% across the map with one go. Her abilities will give you great movement speed all the time, seeing as the 1 stacks up upon her 3, which is an escape anyway, and then the ultimate, while it does deal damage, is also usable as an escape. This makes her a great overall god and a well-rounded hunter. Moving on to number 8, we have Hercules, who is a warrior. Hercules' 1 provides a very good stun and a lot of damage. His 2 is a great knockup that makes it possible to move enemies closer to him, which is a great thing to have in battle, and in team fights, as Hercules is hard to bring down. And then his 3 is a buff, which also heals him at the same time, so that provides him with incredible sustain. His ultimate is a gigantic boulder that he rips out of the ground and does huge amounts of damage. Of course, this is great for any god to be doing a huge amount of damage, but when you pack it onto a warrior that really just can't die unless he has about 4 or 5 ults cast upon him, it makes for one of the strongest gods in the game. And obviously, as a warrior, he's all that more powerful. Now moving on to number 7, we have Poseidon. Now Poseidon, he has lots of movement speed, and which is great for a mage. And seeing as his 1 is that little tidal wave that you get, that's pretty great because he deals lots of damage, and the 2 is great for area damage. Poseidon is great for area damage regardless, but it's just great. I think I might have mixed up my 2 and the 3 though, because the 2 is just giving you more attack speed, and the 3 is the little circle of water he creates underneath him, which actually gives him a more movement speed along with his passive. He's just a very movement speedy god. And then his ultimate, Release the Kraken, literally releases the Kraken, so that's pretty freaking cool, and it does a whole lot of damage. And it's a very good way to get multi-kills, especially triple kills, which is probably the most common type of kill that comes off of this ability. So overall, he does a whole lot of damage, has a whole lot of movement speed, and is overall just a great mage. Alright, now it's time to talk about number 6, Bellona. Now, this might be a little bit confusing because a lot of people thought Bellona was OP when she was first released, but upon many changes she has become less and less OP, but she's still very strong, as she ranks number 6 in my top 10 gods of Smite. Now, her 1 is basically a dash, but it deals a heck of a lot of damage as it increases her attack speed as well. Her 2 is her probably most useful ability, as it wings her bludgeon in a circle, hitting multiple enemies and then crashing down with one blow to deal a whole bunch of damage. Her 3 is probably one of her most useful abilities, as it takes away the opposing god's ability to attack while dealing damage at the same time and healing her every, I believe, 3 strikes. The ultimate Eagle's Rally is a great tool to use for escapes, but it's also a great tool to use to initiate fights. It has a great cooldown of very little. I'm not sure how many seconds it is, but it helps to initiate fights because it buffs your entire team while standing in the radius. And it gives Bellona a significant buff as well, which allows her to deal damage, and honestly does do enough damage to kill sometimes, so that's great too. So Bellona is overall just a great god, and one of the overall best gods in Smite. Number 5 is probably the most hated god in Smite, this being that it's Loki. Now Loki's 1 is ridiculous, as it gives you invisibility for 3 seconds. His 2 is reasonable because all it does is make a copy of himself, and it's really just a good minion clear wave thing, but his passive and his 3 combined are ridiculous. His passive behind me deals extra damage and usually crits if Loki gets behind you, as it would suggest, and while using his 3 combined with this, basically Loki's basic attacks do more damage while using his 3 because it applies a buff to him. And it also usually crits as well. So sometimes you'll be able to one-hit people at the end of the game if you're using this ability, and if you build properly. This comes with also a ridiculous ultimate, which basically one-hits people or close to it. If you use his ultimate, you're going to be able to get a lot of damage in, and possibly 2-hit people once you use his 3 and combine with his passive behind me. Basically, Loki's just the troll king of gods. Now number 4, we have Athena. Athena is personally one of my favorite gods in the game, and also my favorite guardian to play, as she doesn't even feel like you're playing a guardian with her. Instead, it feels like you're playing as a warrior. But her 1 is basically just the dash, and that's pretty much it. Her 2 is one of the most useful abilities in Smite, as it provides a taunt which also basically stops enemies from attacking. Her 3 is usually combined with her 2, as it deals quite a good amount of damage. And if used properly, can end up killing gods sometimes, and her ultimate is actually one of the most useful things ever in a team fight, as it pretty much just teleports her directly to a god of your choice, and if that god is close enough in proximity to enemy gods, it deals a fair amount of damage. I even once got a double kill while just using this ability alone. It's quite ridiculous, and that's why I think she's the best guardian in Smite, and also one of the best gods in Smite as well. Next up we have Soul, at number 3. Now, Soul has a lot of damage-based abilities, and her 1 is no exception. Her 1 gives her stacks on her passive, which allows her basic attacks to become more threatening, but it also heals her, which is quite powerful. Her 2 does a lot of burst damage, as it basically is just an explosion of her one of her basic attacks. Her 3 gives her invincibility from all attacks for a short duration of time. This provides a pretty good escape, and it actually gives her more movement speed, so if you want to initiate a fight, it's also a good way to get closer to the enemy. And her ultimate is actually quite fair. A lot of people thought Sol was OP in the beginning, but now people don't really think so. But I still think she's still one of the best gods in the game. And her ultimate is pretty fair, and if you hit all, 6 or 7 of those sparks from her ultimate, it does quite a bit of damage. This means that Sol is a damage and based god that's a hard-hitting mage, and that's great for mages. Also, she has good movement speed. This makes her one of the best gods in Smite. Coming in at number 2, we have Apollo. Now, Apollo's passive is very good as it gives him better attack speed. His 1 just deals a lot of damage. His 2 is a stun, and that's great because it provides a good escape for his 3, and it also can provide a position for you to pick off enemies and attack them and kill them very easily. And his ultimate is basically an escape. But besides being an escape, it can also be a good means to initiate a fight, as you can pretty much use this thing until your mana runs dry. Apollo does a lot of critical damage, and he has a lot of movement speed, so if you're playing this guy, you're probably going to have a good time. In fact, if you suck as him, it's kind of sad because, well, that means you probably just suck at the game, because he's that good. Now, number 1 is Thor. Surprise, surprise. Thor is the best god in Smite, in my opinion. Which also makes him the best assassin in the game. Of course, Thor's 1 deals damage and gives him a teleport of sorts. His 2 is a stun, and it also can blockade people from reaching their allies, and it gives you a better chance of killing your enemies. His 3 is a swing of his mighty hammer around in a circle multiple times. This deals a whole lot of damage and gives you a lot of wave clear. Not to mention his 4 is a great escape, and it does a whole bunch of damage. Seeing as Thor is an assassin, he has very high defense, but this is unusual for assassins, which means that he's going to have better sustain than most assassins, way more than expected, and on top of that, he's also one of the best gods in Smite. Heck, I even think he's the best. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a like and subscribe, as it helps out the channel greatly. Also, I don't ask for that often, so hopefully people listen to me this time. Alright, I'll catch you guys later. But, yet again, I'll probably be talking about a different topic, seeing as that's how this channel goes and all.